Hey, what's going on, guys? George again with APG. Part of this video right now, we want to take you through the componentry. We want to show you some factory componentry and compare them against the APG componentry. And we're confident you can tell, huge differences between the two parts. All right, let's get into it right now. All right, guys, I'm going to take you through the primary suspension components. We're going to start at the front suspension. We're going to talk about the front lower control arm. The front lower control arm, again, is 3.5 inches front pivot, wider than a factory component. We're using 1-inch uniballs at the pivots, as well as another 1-inch uniball at the ball joint. The upper control arm, I'm going to jump back and forth here a little bit. Again, it is also approximately 3.5 inches longer from a factory pivot to ball joint. We are using double adjuster sleeves, FK rod ends with misalignments. The double adjuster sleeves, again, are extremely helpful so you can align and make adjustments on the vehicle without pulling the component. Simply loosen the double jams, hold, and rotate this, and you will actually increase or decrease your overall throw from your attachment point. The upper control arm, because of the maximum wheel travel we have, is actually 1.5-inch ball, and that's covered up by our dust cap, which has got some cool engraving on it, just some fun stylistic stuff, right? Suspension's also got to look great. Why not? We're going to jump back over here to the axles. It is common knowledge that the factory axles are already short. Any kind of lifting beyond or suspension modifications, you can risk pulling the joint out of the housing. When we were coming up with our axle dimensions with RCV, we went ahead and corrected that, as well as coming up with some unique axle geometry. So, you can actually lift and raise and lower your suspension to select a ride height that you like, and still be in the green zone on your axle geometry. These axles are race car grade. Chromoly bars, heat treated by RCV, 300M internals, dual Rosetta joints. We jumped up from a 29 to a 32 spline. It's just significantly beefier, as well as some corrective decisions made. RCV is known for making race grade components for ages, and take a look at what the pros are using, and they're all running these. Now, jumping over to the tie rod now, sensitive subject, I suppose. This is our full tie rod kit. Okay, of course, our tie rod is longer than factory, since all of the remaining componentry is also longer. We did as much as we could to make this as strong as possible, provide the clearance that we need, high swing angle inside and outside. Of course, it comes with all the necessary hardware, taper pins, all the components that you need. But just looking at the two components side by side, you can see the added strength, not just by a higher grade of materials, but by added material thickness and density. Got some really fun, unique wedge lock washers in there. We'll talk about that more, but it just ensures it'll never come loose. High swing angle, high on the joints. It comes with everything. It comes with the boot, everything you need for a factory seal. Now jumping over to the rear link system, we've got one of each showing the comparisons. We'll start back here. This is a factory rear Panhard track bar. This is the APG track bar. This track bar is unique not just in its change of geometry and clearance, its thickness, its strength. We've teamed up with Rock Chalk and used their Johnny joints on these. They have high misalignment. They're rebuildable, they're greasable. If you're raising and dropping the vehicle and having a adjusted ride height, you really do need to make that rear axle lateral movement position adjustments. And the cool thing is, this is double adjuster. We've got a left and a right hand thread, so all you gotta do is loosen the jam nut, do a little bit of constant rotation, and you can actually grow and or shrink that just by grabbing on this welded in bung and give some rotations. And that's consistent design strategy across all of the rear link systems. So this parallel 4-link, 5-link consists of the rear track bar, 2 lower control arm links, 2 upper control arm links. Again, all of the link systems are fully adjustable on the vehicle just by loosening forward and rear jam nuts, loosening, rotating, and you can make those longer and make those shorter. So the program here is everything is highly adjustable. So you're not buying a vehicle that must be set up in a certain way. Various load, different ride heights and suspension settings. You can really fine tune it for whatever your application is. We'll jump into more in a little bit. All right, guys, we've already spoke about the shocks, but now we're going to talk about the shock system side by side, the OEM componentry. These Bilstein coilovers are direct OEM removals out of a Sasquatch equipped Bronco. And looking at them side by side, you can just visually, everything stands out. Overall shock length, spring remote reservoirs that are race grade. I mean, they're just a substantial jump in shock technology. You know, I think these are 175 diameters, these are 3.0 diameters. We spoke about the overall throw lengths and the travel numbers, eyelet to eyelet. We've got the remote long fin resis with multi-compression adjusters built in there for quick on-the-fly adjustments. Just looking at the two shock systems side by side, that speaks volume. These aren't just shock bodies and shock systems that are gonna perform well off-road. The on-road driving characteristics of this suspension system is really incredible. So there's no end for shock technology, but we really feel that we've done a good job dialing in the spring settings for a standard drive, compression and rebound settings at the variable stages, you know, and this internal bypass here is gonna do a real good job slowing down that max bump out if you're only gonna run a single shock with the bump. Obviously the bypass options will give you more adjustment, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Let's jump onto the rear shocks. All right, now we're onto the rear shock setup. Much more noticeable difference in overall shock length. Top cap to center eyelet versus center eyelet to center eyelet. There's a huge noticeable difference. The SAS rear coilovers are about 26 inches top cap to center line, where our 3.0 coilovers are bringing in, you know, eyelet to eyelet's coming at about 38 inches or so. Just give you a general idea of the overall shock throw length that you're gonna get, which is, you know, huge upgrade over the factory componentry. Again, we're also looking at these 3.0 diameters with internal bypass, same setup configuration in the rear. It's a longer remote reservoir, also with compression adjustment. Again, these are sprung and valved and pre-tuned, so you don't need to worry about that. We have several trips out off-road where we fine-tune these. And again, for additional fine-tuning, we can get out to the desert, mountains, anywhere, and we can do additional valving. For unique drivers with different loads, we can get a little bit creative with those compression and rebound settings, so you're dialed right as the vehicle rolls out of APG. Again, huge noticeable difference in the shock body diameter. It's carrying more fluid, you're not gonna shock fade as quick. More volume, keep shock oil cooler, better valving, better compression, better settings across the board. Just the internal technology here is significantly more advanced than what's happening inside of here. So we think that we've really dialed the shock settings on this, but you know, for further fine tuning, that's always available for a little shock tuning day out in the desert with us and the pros over at King. So what you're looking at right here is basically every shock that we offer on Bronco ProRunner. It is the same as you saw in the last video. It is the rear coilovers, the front coilovers, front and rear bump stops. But in this image, we've actually got the 12-inch 3.2 bypasses set up inside of this so you can see what's happening. I mentioned before that if you want to take it even to the next level, we add on these secondary bypasses in the rear. These are 12-inch throw, 3.2 bypasses with long fin resis on each. You've got additional fine tuning for your compression and your rebound settings. And you can do that out there on the trail, you know, grab an Allen and an open-ended wrench and you can make some adjustments out there. In the front, we've got our, you know, same kind of idea. You could throw on 3.2 bypasses. They're fully optional, but you know, really what you get out of bypasses is just second to none. Also came preset from King based on the valve settings that we've come up with, proving out in Barstow and in Johnson Valley. Very, very pleased with the settings, you know, and we think you guys are also going to. Hey guys, again, thanks for tuning in. I hope you learned something here. I hope we did a good job explaining the differences between the OEM and APG's components. If you like what you've seen, please subscribe here and, you know, stay tuned for some more. Thank you so much. See you next time.